Hello, my wonderful Ashwings, and welcome on into the next installment of A to Z, the Commoner series for the High Seas meta of Flesh and Blood. So, this is going to be, again, our third Arakni video, believe it or not, but we are covering Arakni Web of Deceit this time. That's right, there are count them, three different Arachnis in the commoner format. And so it's all about choosing which one you really want to try out. But Arakni Web of Deceit notably is a very, very powerful hero, strictly because they have access to being able to flip into demi-heroes. So let's talk a little bit about Arakni's ability and kind of how they play as we go over the course of this deck. So Arakni Web of Deceit, notably one of the coolest arts for a young hero ever, bar none, I think, personally. Your attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1. And when this hits, this gets go again. This means that you kind of want your opponent to be marked as best as you possibly can, because it allows you to get all of your stealth cards to have breakpoints, and if they hit, you get to provide another attack. It's a weird mix kind of between the new Arakni here with Web of Deceit, as well as Arakni Solitary Confinement, which we've seen in a previous video if you have not gone to go check that one out yet. But Arakni Web of Deceit also has this really awesome text here at the bottom stating at the beginning of your end phase, if an opponent is marked, you become a random agent of chaos, but your health does not change. You start with 20 health, you have 4 intellect, and what that means is you get to take a look at one of these 6 demi-heroes down here. So they're all tokens. When you're playing Arakni Web of Deceit, you have to have all 6 of these tokens, mind you. So it is very important that, most of the time it's like, oh, shoot, I didn't have the tokens for, a Blood Rot Pox or a Frailty or a Mark token or whatever. You need to have these, because if you don't know what their ability is. You don't know what they do. You might, but your opponent does not. And you can't just say, oh, like it just does this. Don't worry about it. Like, these tokens are easy to find. Please go get them. And if you have the Marvels, you can use those. They're the same ones. So it's perfect. But Arakni Black Widow, essentially when you're rolling a dice, you roll a d6, right? A 6-sided dice. And you choose one of these 6 to turn into if your opponent is marked. We'll kind of go over what they do here, in which Arakni Black Widow is number 1. Their effect says once per turn attack reaction, you can discard an assassin card and target assassin attack gets +3. If it has stealth, it gets when this hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. And then all of these are going to say at the end here, at the beginning of your end phase, return to the brood, which means just go back to Arakni Web of Deceit. So Arakni Black Widow, all you need to remember is that you can discard an assassin card to give a assassin attack +3. Notably, that assassin attack can be something like a contract card, right? You can give contract cards +3, but if it has stealth, it gets when this hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. So pretty cool, because you get kind of a twofer on that one. You get to bump a 3 to a 6, and then you also get to banish a card from their hand just by discarding an assassin card. Funnel Web is the same effect, except it is they banish a card from their arsenal instead. So the Funnel Web is arsenal, Black Widow is hand when banishing a card. Arakni Orb Weaver allows you to create a Graphene Chelicera token at instant speed by discarding an assassin card. You equip a Graphene Chelicera token, and your next attack with stealth this turn gets +3. Now, notably, this is Graphene Chelicera. This is the token that gets made. This is a stealth weapon, which means that any card of yours that says your next stealth attack gets X or whatever, as long as it says attack and not attack action, it can pump up the ability of Graphene Chelicera. So, and when it attacks a marked hero, the attack gets go again. So you're going to want your opponent to be marked. You're going to try and swing this as well as another card into them, try to pump up a lot of damage with the daggers. It's a very powerful effect. And notably, you have to have a open weapon slot for this to work. So keep that in mind. Then we have Arakni Redback, number 4. Very powerful one here. Once per turn attack reaction, you can discard an assassin card, and target assassin attack gets +3. If it has stealth, it gets go again. So +3 and stealth, if it gets go again. Not an on-hit go again, but it just gets go again. is very powerful if you're trying to go with a go wide kind of style here. So Arakni Redback, pretty awesome. Then we have Arakni Tarantula. This is real cool, especially if you happen to have daggers on the board already. Playing something like Arakni Tarantula, whenever a dagger you own hits a hero, they lose 1 life. Now, notably, this also works with flick effects. So if you flick a dagger at your opponent and you are Arakni Tarantula, it actually deals 2 damage instead of just 1 damage, which is really great. And then as a once per turn attack reaction, you can discard an assassin card to have target dagger attack get +3. So as long as it's a dagger, it can get +3. That can be on the Graphene Chelicera, or it can be on the Mark of the Huntsman. You can go ahead and use that to get +3. And then, of course, if it hits, it gets another 1 point of life lost on there as well. And then finally, the last one here, number 6, is Arakni Trapdoor. Now, this card specifically, this demi-hero, is kind of the reason why this hero is limited in some situations, just because if you flip into this hero, into this demi-hero, when you become this, you may search your deck for a card, banish it face down, then shuffle. If it's a trap, you may play it until the start of your next turn. So the cool thing is that you can go ahead and utilize things such as traps to get yourself essentially a D-react and banish, right? You don't have to show your opponent this card. It doesn't even need to be a trap. It could be anything. But it is important to note that if it's a trap, you can play it. If it's not a trap, you cannot. So with Arakni Trapdoor, you're kind of forced into this world in which you're going to need to at least play 2 traps, as in like 2 copies of a trap. And we'll go into the main traps in the deck in a bit here, but just know that Arakni Trapdoor is probably the best or worst form to flip into, depending on what situation you're in the game. The rest of these here provide a pretty great additional +3 value. Having an attack reaction available on hero trigger turns any of your assassin attacks into attack reactions for this ability, which is really, really good, because sometimes you just need that additional value to pump over to hit your opponent. And if you don't have that, or you can't pay for it, right? You don't have the resources to pay for it. It costs 0. All you need to do is just discard the card. So you would have been using the card anyway. You don't have to pay any resources, and you get the pump value of any of these things here. So that is good to know. Also keep in mind with Arakni Orb Weaver, and we may see it in the game, but your next attack with stealth this turn gets +3. So keep in mind that you're going to want to activate Arakni Orb Weaver's ability first, and then you're going to want to go ahead and play the stealth card, because this is not a reaction. This is an instant. So it will, it'll make sense later on. But looking in the deck, we have a pretty statistic, like a good loadout overall. There's a world in which I thought about keeping the Snapdragon Scalers in the deck, just strictly because we've been running the same suite for pretty much every of the Arachnes, which is just a Blade Beckoner Helm, Blade Beckoner Plating, Danger Digits, and Snapdragon Scalers. But I decided to leave these one at Blade Beckoner Boots just to see if it was worth any more value. I do think that Snapdragon Scaler certainly could provide a wider turn, especially if you're, you already don't have native go again, and your opponent needs to be marked in order for you to get this additional go again. But I do think that Blade Beckoner Boots at least present a little bit more of a defensive strategy, so that way you can set up your turn and present damage to your opponent. And then, of course, we are running the Mark of the Huntsman. This is just the only dagger that allows you to mark in the Young Hero formats, in Commoner more specifically. So Mark of the Huntsman is just kind of the better pick. Then we look at the main deck here. Our main 40 here, we have Backstab. Of course, if we're playing in a format with a bunch of defense reactions, we want to tell our opponent that they can't do that. Hunted or Hunter is the trap that I've actually kept inside the main deck. This one would get swapped out for anything in our sideboard pretty much. But Hunted or Hunter is really great. This is kind of like the, I like to think of it like the reckless swing of assassin traps, because if you know your opponent is going to be playing an attack reaction heavy deck, maybe they're playing warrior or something, you can go ahead and block with this, and when you do, you can go ahead and, obviously you get the value of they lose a life if they played an attack reaction on that chain link. But even still, if you end up flipping into Arakni Trapdoor, it still is a trap that blocks for 3. So you get another block 3 value out of it, which is fine. Incision is, again, in here just strictly to pump up a dagger attack in case we can feint our opponent and think only 1 damage is coming in. We can then pump it to 4 and then get another value, a bunch of value off that. The red and blue infects, again, with the ability to just essentially discard a card, an assassin card from our hand to use any of these abilities. Even playing the blues are really good. Isolate, also notably another awesome one to do because Isolate has Dominate, so it's already going to be hard for them to block that all out. Mark of the Black Widow, red and blue for the same purpose. Again, you're going to want to mark your opponent all the time. And if they are marked, this is far more of a threat than just 3 damage. It's obviously the threat of banishing a card from your opponent's hand. If your opponent is marked, this will come in for 4 damage instead of 3, which means they have to block a little bit better in order for it to not hit, which means they may have to use a D-React. In this case, you can respond then with like a Razor's Edge or a 2 sides of the blade and get a lot of value in pumping that up as well. Mark the Prey is another way to go ahead and mark your opponent. If you send this in for 1, they probably won't block it, which means you mark them, which means you flip, which means your next turn is a little bit better. Notably, they'll probably keep their whole hand, but if you block very well, you're in a good spot. Nimblism is another great way to like pump up those attacks before you actually send them out. Because if you send out a infect for 6 and you flipped over to a different hero, and you're a Black Widow, for instance, now you know that 6 can become a 9 if you have an assassin card in your hand. So very powerful stuff. Pick up the point. You're going to be flicking your dagger at least once, and so pick up the point allows you to get those daggers back. This is the only kind of recursion that you're ever going to really see. I thought about it there being a world in which you'd play another flick ability to kind of like get more damage off of there, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think pick up the points, just another 0 for 3 go again that you can follow up with a incision. It's probably a world in which this would be better off being something like a scar for a scar instead of a pick up the point. But of course, that's what we're here to do, is test. Razor Reflex, it's just good. It's in every one of the other Arakni decks. It should be in every deck that has a 0 cost attack suite. Or a 1 cost attack suite. If you have blues to pay for it, it's just, this is the card everybody fears towards the end game, so it's important to have. Razor's Edge, obviously it's just good. It allows you to pump your stealth attacks. Scar Tissue, we're running red and yellow Scar Tissue here. This is just because in most cases, attacking with our daggers is actually kind of fine. There are moments in which attacking with our daggers makes more sense than attacking with our attack actions. So usually you want to attack with a dagger, try to feint out that you're trying to mark them, and then be able to go ahead and go, just kidding, I'm going to pump it to 4, deal some damage, and then not mark you, and then send in something like a Mark the Prey instead, which is pretty good. And then, of course, we're running the Sink Belows. It's just really, really good. It blocks really well. You have the 2 sides of the blade. This allows you to either pump up a dagger or pump up a stealth attack and mark them. And then you have your final card here, Reaper's Call. This is an instant discard to mark your opposing hero. So if you are trying to end your turn by flipping, this is a great turn 0 effect in which you can go ahead and attack with a dagger, attack with a stealth attack, and then once they're fully blocked out, you can just discard the Reaper's Call to mark them and then flip into your new hero. And then that way you can go about making those changes. It's another thing to do also in the case of just like if you can't get any of these daggers to hit, or you can't get these Mark the Preys to hit, or you can't get these Scar Tissues to hit for some reason, Reaper's Call is going to be the way to go about doing that there. So that's the main part of the deck. Effectively, what you're going to want to change out, depending on your matchup, is this Hunted or Hunter here. You're going to want to change it out for Frailty Trap when you're going against a ninja or anybody who likes to go wide with their weapons. Warriors, also notably, if they're on like 2 hatchets, it's going to be better to do this. If you're going against Ira or Katsu or Syndra, this is not a bad one to have on there. Battlefront Bastion, great for Prism or any of the really any of the illusionists. It's also a fantastic breakpoint to come in towards the end of the game, and it blocks very well to prevent a breakpoint on the next attack. And then Arcane Polarity is good for the Arcane matchups. We do know that Wizards can sometimes pop up now, but after the Waning Moon ban, it's kind of hard to see them. So you may see Rune Blades more than Wizards. That's why Arcane Polarity is here, because if you get hit with a Rune Chant, you can play this card and then gain 4 life, which is huge. 8 life in 4 cards in 2 cards is pretty good. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the Talishar queue for Commoner and see if Arakni Web of Deceit has what it takes to slay their opponents in the Commoner format. All right, looks like our first opponent here is Dash Database. Looks like we have played against this opponent before, from what I can tell, but we're going to play into them now on a different Arakni. I think this is a world in which maybe Frailty Trap might not be terrible because they're not going to play reactions, and it means that their weapon attacks for 1 less. So maybe we swap those out for this, and then we kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and submit that, and then we'll go ahead and send it here. So opponent notably not marked, but we can try and attempt to mark them here. We can play Mark of the Black Widow, and we're going to see exactly how they block. Because theoretically, we can Razor's Edge, and then we can flick a dagger and get another card off the top of their deck. So we can do this, pitch this. And then I think I will, just because in case we get something to get our dag. Now, our daggers are pretty important here. So maybe we just leak damage. Yeah. Pretty good. So we could have kept an Arsenal, but we dealt 6 damage turn 1, which is pretty good. And now we're Tarantula. So our daggers are going to be important here. So we're going to want to keep some blues. This is a hand where I might just block. Might block with Mark of the Prey here. Again, they're kind of a boost build from what we can tell. So maybe blocking just makes more sense here in the matter. Because the more life we have, obviously, that we're just going to live longer. We also probably want to keep these here for dominate, right? So in case they're coming in with something like a payload, we want to make sure that these are getting full value where they can. So there's the boom grenade. It is going to probably be cranked, if I were to guess. It is not going to be cranked. So that means that we're essentially going to have to get 2 cards taken from us here, unless we want to take 7. Not great, honestly. But we can still, I still think our method here is block 6. Because I am fine with that, honestly. We might even undo blocks and just block 6 like this. Keep something like a Mark of the Black Widow in the arsenal here that's red. That way we can threaten card draw, card damage. Symbiosis shot for 2. That's fine. They no longer have counters on there, and notably, they are not threatening the boom grenade. So pretty good. So I'm not sure how they got that. Maybe they already had thing. I must have missed something. But they've got a counter on here, so they're going to get to keep that around for another round here. Notably, we can still swing this and then flick a dagger to try and keep them marked. We're going to threaten a card from them here. Because, again, it's better to threaten a card than to threaten no cards. Because, sure, we could set up our arsenal, but we're not trying to do some crazy go wide tactic. Effectively, right now, we're just looking to threaten where we can. So, notably, they're going to not do anything here. I'm not going to bother flicking a dagger just yet either. So we're just going to have them block 3, and then we'll go ahead and continue on with our turn here. So we only lost 2 life during that last one there. I think it's going to be worth it to kind of keep these around. I think we're going to be in a good spot for what it's worth. Scar tissues up here. So again, Mark of the Huntsmans are going to go pretty well with these. We can even Nimbleism this Mark of the Black Widow to have it come in for a little bit more, which is cool. But again, with Boom Grenade out, they're probably going to be trying to get back a lot of crazy stuff here. They're going to get what, an Expedite? Yep. Expedite back. And again, it's a boost build. So notably, if we just kind of live past the boost, we're in a fine spot. This is where it's kind of awkward because they're blocking 3. I mean, really, even if our turn is just dagger for 2 go again to dagger, we're fine. We're not going to use this, and we'll just block it out with one of the headpieces or one of the blade beckoners, because that's fine if we have 2 left over. I don't foresee us having an issue with getting anything more. Pay 2 for throttle. Okay. Block 5, then block 2 from the thing. Pass. Yeah. Yeah, I think we just block 5. Again, going into dash. Oh, I forgot about the boom grenade. Well, that's on me. That's on me, I guess. I'm just casually taking damage in which I don't need to, but let's just block 2. And then they're going to hit me for 2. Okay, that's fine. So down to 9. I definitely think I messed that up, but I guess I would have gotten hit with it anyway because Sprocket Rocket would have been coming in. So, but they use their arms and their chest piece, so they really right now just have the ability to do an additional shot or something else. Most of my deck blocks for 3 outside of my pumps and some reactions. So we have the ability to do a little bit more here. And again, we're kind of in the fatigue game. We know they're more than likely on payloads. 1 payload is in the Banish Zone, so we're okay there. So now we just need to wait for the 1 payload. Okay, so 4. Let's see. They already used their ability, so they're just going to come in for 1 point of damage. I think it's probably best that we just go ahead and do this. We'll block for 3. Again, we want to keep these up for the payload, just because I don't want to get unpayloaded. Throttle for 6. Block 6. And shoot me for 2. That's fine. I'll just block 2. Notably, they're out of backup protocol reds. They still have a boom grenade that they can play. I am Black Widow, which is pretty cool, but it's not going to help me any. There's no point in me keeping all those if they're going to boost away a lot of their stuff. Notably, if we watch them boost away another payload, we're in a pretty good spot. I didn't see them pitch anything for it. It could be just the payload entering Arsenal right now. We do also have D-Reacts that will be coming up here, hopefully sometime soon, because we're through this many cards in our deck already. So we're more than likely due for a payload here, which will assist a lot with us. Let's block with the thing that does not allow for a lot of value here. Much rather have like a Mark of the Prey or something. Hadron Collider off the top of the deck. Crank it to get your action point back. Unless you just don't want to do that and you want to set up instead. Okay. Banishing the script. 8 damage. Now that's a lot. It's a lot there, actually. 2 cards in hand still. I guess I don't know how they cranked it and also they did a boom grenade. I guess they did it off the top. They just didn't. Oh, because it's an instant speed. They don't need to crank it. They're not trying to do extra action point shit. I think there's still a world in which we can prevent this, and then I don't know. Dash might actually be Dash IO might not be terrible in this situation, just because Hadron Collider is so crazy. Okay, boost off the top. They've got one card left in hand, so they can shoot. There's no way for them to get yeah, just shoot. I'll just get the one value from this here. The Arsenal card. Notably, we have yet to see the other payload still, so we're kind of in the weeds. And we don't have a freaking... Our D-Reacts are just not popping up here. We're not seeing any sinks in the deck right now, which is unfortunate for us, but I mean, you know what happens. Our opponent's marked. They could just have also a bad hand. They could just get a bad hand here. But I think notably what we need to worry about is payload. Payload is definitely the thing that kills us for sure. We didn't flip, unfortunately, into Trapdoor. Otherwise, I would have been sick. They got a Boom Grenade in hand. And they know what their top card is. So 4 cards here. Probably a bunch of reds. So I've seen a lot of yellows be played now. Block here. Pass. We'll do a Frailty Trap. Okay, so they get a Frailty token. That's going to help with their gun only coming in for 1 now instead of 2. Locked and loaded. Oh, there's the payload. So we see it here now. Zipper hit. Or 0 to 60 boost, 7. 7, and then coming in for 1 after. Oh, wait. This needs to block this. Unfortunately, we do need to block with 1 piece of equipment here because that is a Boom Grenade. So we just go ahead and we take those. 1 damage, we take 1 damage. And so notably, they should have the payloads going on the bottom of the deck. We're still not in any of our stuff here. I'm not going to lie. I forget whether or not there are sink belows in this build. I'm almost certain there are. But I think just because we have not gone through these yet. 2? That's fine. We can block 2. So there's a yellow Boom Grenade. This hand does not look to be near as good. Another yellow Boom Grenade. Achilles Accelerator. Gun. We'll block with 1 here. I'll take 1. Now, notably, my turn here could be like backstab. I'm going to try and like rip a card. They're not going to care though. If they block here, that's so bad for them. This next hand has a, what do you call it? The next hand has a payload in it. So, yeah, this is good. This is good, but not enough, actually. So, fortunately for us, it's probably not going to happen here. There's a world in... Well, they have the Boom Grenade. That sucks for us. We know they don't have the payload, though. So, notably, if we can find a way to get this card out of our Banish Zone are out of our arsenal. And they're also going to have to boost away the payload and everything here. So throttle, boosting. Okay, we can say no blocks here, and we can sync. I'll sync away this. Zipper hit for 5. I mean, like, I effectively can block. Well, they don't have the payload anymore, so they definitely die. I just need to block 6 here. Yeah, gotta remember the boom grenade. No blocks, reactions. Do this here. And now they have a card left in deck. It is an outpace. They can't boost it. We win. And that's that. Good game. So a little close, right? Honestly, I do think that Hadron Collider is kind of insane. Being able to pay 2 resources to put this off the top to then make your next 0 for 4 come in for 8 go again is huge. So for 2 resources and a card off the top, you get to come in for 8. A lot of value there. But I do think there was a world in which the Frailty Trap made sense. We didn't run to any of our sync belows until the end there. But as soon as they boosted that payload off, when we saw one payload not be in the fray and then the other one we were just kind of waiting for, we definitely had the right play going forward here. Because if they had it, I mean, we definitely would not have been able to. I think I also misplayed by the boom grenade turn, but I guess I didn't really, because the boom grenade turn was gonna happen anyway. So not terrible. Pretty good game. Let's check out the next one. See how Arakni does into that. All right. It looks like we're going against a Dorinthia here. So looks like they've chosen for us to go first. I think in this situation, we're in a pretty good spot just to keep what we've got. We know they're going to have reactions, so we can keep the hunted or hunter, and then we can go ahead and just move it on from here. So let's see whether or not we get some good value off the front here. They are probably on, if I were to guess, they're going to be on Decimator Great Axe. They're on hatchets. Okay, so this is certainly different compared to what I'd normally see. But this is at least going to be helpful to kind of check and see where we're looking at here. I would say what we can do here is we can maybe... I think we might even want to do something along the lines of play a Mark the Huntsman, because we're going first, so we're trying to eke out a little bit here. Now, normally, hatchets is probably going to like ruin us in all intents and purposes, but I think it's still not going to be terrible here. So we can do that. What we can do is we can then pitch this into the next one. Get another card out of their hand. And then scar tissue that one. Because we want to keep them marked, put the sink below an arsenal, pass. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit this here. Scar tissue, 4 over. We are not going to choose to destroy our Matte Dagger because we've marked them. And then I will go ahead and close. And then we'll put this into the arsenal. So not terrible. Kind of a great start getting a D-Reaction arsenal. This hand doesn't do too much for us here outside of the Mark of the Black Widow, but we're going to have to see. Notably, Hatchet of Body here, kind of really good. My instinct here, because I have a feeling they're not running attack reactions, is just to block this with a headpiece. I know we probably shouldn't do this early, but it at least guarantees that they don't get to attack with that hatchet again. And then we can de-react this next hatchet. So let's see. What does our turn look like? We could theoretically, we're in Orb Weaver right now. So we could block 5 here. Or block 2 and then 6. Keep the Orb Weaver. We can discard to Orb Weaver, make it come in for 6, make it come in for 9. Yeah, you know what? I think that's fine because they're probably going to pump this a bit, right? So let's just do that. Let's then go ahead and dereact here. We will probably not. Although I don't know. It might be better to do this instead, to have it come in for 4. Okay. But, I mean, we blocked it out. We, in fact, thugged it out. So, all right. Notably here, we probably want Mark the Prey, but Mark of the Black Widow to rip a card from hand is also really good. So we can theoretically do this. Next attack with stealth is turning to +2. That also have this come in for 4. Yeah. Let's just try to rip cards from our opponent's hand, I think. Let's get rid of this. And then let's go ahead and send the Mark of the Black Widow. This will come in for 4 with an on hit. So notably, very good. They can't give too many cards from hand. Otherwise, it is going to really ruin their day. So if they say no blocks and they block with a D react, we then react here. If they block 4, we can then react and see if they have the D react, right? Because that'll be 2 cards. So we are going to react here. Pump it up to 7. And we're going to see whether or not we get hit. We do get a hit, which means that they're going to have to banish a card from their hand. Very nice. A 2-card hand for Dorinthia. Get rid of the Out for Blood. Okay. And then we just do this. So Hatchet of Body here. I think we might actually be fine to let this hit, because if they're going to use a resource to give it go again, we're really not trying to get like crazy with it. So I wonder if we caught them on a turn, or if they're trying to figure it out. Second swing also was kind of fun too. Just a pass. Refraction bolters coming in. They do pop the bolters. Okay. So popping bolters to have this one come in for 3. I think we probably just block. I think the goal here would be to play a backstab and then pump it to 6. And then mark our opponent and then keep this in deck. That way we can flip. So I think we're just going to block here. We'll see whether or not they have a thing in hand to... Okay, so they do. So 3 more. So effectively we were going to take 6 anyway. So good that we blocked out where we did. We are going to simply send a... Yeah, we're going to send a backstab and kind of protect ourselves from any kind of D-reacts that are happening here. We're going to have to start doing more stuff with our daggers here soon. So maybe if we get like a handful of blues, we'll be in a better spot. But I think we're working towards this here. So we are going to do this. We're going to try and mark our opponent. We do mark them, which is sick. We get to flip. And we flip into red back. Okay. Now, notably, hunted or hunter, pretty good here. So lead with speed. Okay. Then a hatchet for 5. So if we block here and I want to keep something. I think this is definitely like a dagger turn for the most part, but yeah, we block there. I'm going to see if they react at all. No reactions. I think I'll just use this then. just because I want to get the full value of blocking it out. Okay, well, we definitely got we definitely got what we got out of it. So, although they can only attack once, they dealt 3 damage and they'll pass. Our turn is very, very simple here. Effectively, we can try to send something and give it +4 or +3, which might not be terrible. So we need to play this, discard a card. So theoretically, we could still swing with a dagger. And then this only pumps to +2. I think there's a world in which I just send Infect. Try to get some value off of this. They could not block, right? And we could just pump. We will do that, I think. We'll get rid of the Reaper's Call. I'd rather have a scar tissue down there. So 4 go again. There's a D-React. Okay, so we baited out the D-React. That's fine. I will close the combat chain. I will pass. Put this in Arsenal. And so they're through some stuff. They still have quite a lot of power on their end here. They're through with their Out for Bloods. They have another red and yellow Iron Song response, I'm almost certain, and another Sharpened Steel. So we have to hope that they're starting to run into their blues a little bit more. Luckily, we block very well, but might not be enough here. And again, their ability to play with their weapons is really good, but their weapons eventually will not be able to get go again. So it is kind of nice to be able to block that here. I think that we're still going to do the same song and dance. We have this here, and then it's already got the go again. So I don't know. There's a world in which maybe I take 5. But I'd rather them not be able to block. So I think we're going to do that. Because again, they're through their reds. Their lead with speeds are gone. They're probably on Goblet of Blood Run Wine. Okay, 3. Boop, 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 doop. We could theoretically mark, flip. This will come in for 4 also. So it will require them to block with another thing. I think I'd actually just take 3 here. If they hit and run me, they hit and run me. Okay. Nothing there. Take 3, pass. So we are certainly going to go ahead and do this. And if they block 6, we can just pass. I guess they have to block 7, right? Okay, block 4. See if they have the D-React. We have to bait it out of them. Because if we don't, then we lose. So we do get the hit. That's what I like to see. They're not marked, so we don't have to flip. They have to banish a card from their hand. Which we get probably, hopefully, a blue. Ooh, a red Blade Runner. That's actually crazy. Okay. So we just pass. So we got another red out of their deck. They should be on the rainbow of Blade Runners, but I digress. We're out of blocking power, which is a feels bad here, but I think we're going to get to the point where them sending this is fine. If they swing for 2 and they have the hit and run, this comes in for 3, it's whatever. Assassins don't normally win this matchup. This dual wielding warrior matchup, very hard for them to do. Now, notably, this does have go again, so we could theoretically block here. I could swing 1 with the Mark of the Black Widow and then danger digits. Could even Nimblism, Mark of the Black Widow, and then danger digits. So there might be a world in which I just take this here. Because I also don't want to get hit with some other dumb, like, nonsense, I guess. Mind. Okay, they had a full red hand. If that's an Iron Song response, I mean, we just get hit by it, I guess. But I think notably we can do... we'll keep the blue, actually. So I think we'll get rid of the pick up the point. And then we'll blue to scar tissue. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, take 1. Let's see exactly what we can do here. So we are going to play a Nimblism. And then we're going to swing with this. So notably, they're going to have to try and block 4. They might block with their chess piece here, which is fine. Removes them from a resource, I guess. And then we can go ahead. If it hits and they're marked, we're good. But if it doesn't hit, if they have the other D react, which we have not seen yet, we haven't seen the other sync below here. They're blocking 3, so I'm only assuming they have it. But I'm going to flick. We are going to mark our opponent. This is coming for 5 now. Okay, cool. We did get a card. So that's a feels good. And we got the go again. Cool. And then we'll swing this other dagger. And then I'll make a scar tissue. Mark you again. Do not get rid of that. And then I will pass. So they're at 4. We did some pretty good damage there on that run. Not the best, but not the worst. We have to respect 2 here. I mean, they're through a good portion. I mean, there's still so many more hit and runs left in the deck, though. So, like, this is definitely something else is going to come in. But 2 damage is 2 damage. What does our turn look like? Let's see here. So our turn could be pick up the point, pitch this mass, mark the prey, get a dagger back, swing dagger, play incision, swing backstab. So 3 into 4 into 3. 3, 4, 3, 7, 10 damage. That's if this is gonna get go again, I guess, right? So there's gotta be a Blade Runner. Yeah, okay. So I was like, there's no way there isn't a Blade Runner here. So that's fine. It just means that this one's coming in for a lot more. It's coming in for 6. The rough part here is that if that is an Iron Song response in hand, and we block for 3, gets pumped to 6, we die. So we have to block 6 here, otherwise we die. Notably, I can get a incision off here if I block like 5. If I block 5 on 6, 1 point, it's still an Iron Song response death. I wonder if I just need to make them have it, right? That could very well be the case here. I think that might be what we try to do here, is I think we're just going to try and make him have it. But I think we die to that. No, play it safe. Block 6. Yeah. Okay, play it safe. You see how many times I went across and I was just like, there's no way, right? This is just not going to happen. And we're Orb Weaver too, so like it's also not terrible that this happens. So we could very well do Orb Weaver, discard this, and then we get to do exactly the same thing where we swing if they're marked this swings in for 2, and then this one will swing in for 4. So that's pretty good. Not marked anymore. I don't want to do that. And then swing in for 4. Okay, so they give us a blue from hand. Is it probably holding on to some reds? Surprised they haven't used their chess piece yet, but I guess they don't. I guess this is just mainly going to be for a pay 1 to attack with hatchet, right? So, okay, we're good there. We have 2 daggers, pretty good ones also, notably. This hand does nothing. This hand blocks. So, unfortunate for us that we are just kind of in the weeds here for this one. Everything blocks for 2 besides the Razor's Edge, so we need to use our math efficiently here. Felling Swing. What the hell is that? 9? 3, 7, 9? 3, 5, 7, 9. Perfect. Huge. Pass. Interesting. That was a hand of all time, I guess. I might be able to ping him on this one, actually. That might not be terrible. We do have to block. So, unfortunately, we're going to block here. Four on 3. I'm going to react. Ping them for 1. And then we have this set up here. There is the Blade Runner. So that's really good. We faked him out effectively there. We'll block 6 here. See if they have anything. They don't. Okay. I'll just continue. I wonder, this might be a situation where, like, I feel this would have been better. But notably, we're not going to get to ping them for death here. I think we just block. I mean, this is theoretically what we want to keep here, right? So we want to go ahead and block like this. Yeah, block like this, I guess. Blade Runner again. Okay. Seven. Block 6. They don't have the red Iron Song anymore, right? Yeah, they're out of Iron Song responses. So this could be a in the swing, which very well could kill me here. Let's see. Let me think. They don't have any more red out for bloods. There's no more sharpened steels, no second swings left in the deck, no lead foot speeds. There's a Blade Runner still, but not really anything we can do about that. I don't know that they have a reaction in hand unless it's a blue Iron Song response, which we notably, I have not been paying attention on whether or not that's the case. This also is Go Again, which doesn't do anything here. There'd be no reason to play that. Oh, just to pump it, I guess, is the reason they do it. I think there's a world in which we just block 7. We're going to see whether or not that was correct. We'll see. I will not do that. Damn it. Yep, there it is. Good game. Good game. Yep, that's the one. So if I blocked with 6 and then I de-react, it would have been exactsies. But unfortunately, I had to make them have it, and they had it. So, oh well, that was fine. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at a recap and talk about how I feel the deck went as far as the overall game plan. All right, so Arakni Web of Deceit. I think there's a real perk of this assassin in the format here, just strictly because being able to flip to any one of these is really, really powerful. But notably, that's where this chaos talent comes in, and because you don't get to really choose which one you become. So on turns in which you might want to have a great offense, you might be turning into Trapdoor. But there are turns in which you want a really great defense, and if you happen to turn into Trapdoor, you're in a really good spot. Unfortunately, we weren't able to cinch the win on that one there, but notably, as I'd mentioned, the Dorinthia, really just any warrior, any dual-wielding warrior, they are so much harder to get around as far as damage and even fatigue than an assassin is, effectively, because our daggers cost 2, the hatchets cost 1, and then it costs 1 for their reaction to give it go again and then pump the next one. We don't get to do that. We effectively have to use at least like 2 cards for their 1 card turn. And so that's where a lot of this power comes in to be able to go a little bit wider. But in the end, I mean, I think the deck played pretty well. We were able to play around our outs. I feel like there was a world, we did a good job there in blocking 6 when they were presenting 9. I had a feeling they had that Iron Song response in hand, and so I proceeded to just go ahead and block out as effectively as I could. Then even the dash game that we had, dash database, was pretty good. I mean, we block fairly effectively. I don't know that Nimblism needs to be in the deck. This might just become red Reaper's Call, or even just like a red Plunge the Prospect or something, some other, if your opponent is marked, do X thing kind of deal. I thought about making the Mark of the Funnel Web as another one of the cards, but I think out of the cards inside the deck, at least from what I feel is good and what I feel is not good, I feel like Nimblism probably can get cut. That doesn't really help us any, especially since it blocks 2. Pick Up the Point is good, but again, I think we're not running a whole lot of flick abilities in the deck, so we probably should look into something along the lines of throw yourself at them in order for you to flick these daggers back. That way we're attempting to mark our opponent a little bit more, with there not being any way to really prevent a lot of those 1-point damage effects in the game, in Commoner more specifically. Being able to recur a Mark of the Huntsman and then flick it in the same turn is pretty good. The only downfall, of course, there being is that if you're playing a throw yourself at them and you flick your dagger and then it hits and you want to mark your opponent, if they let the 1 point of damage from the throw yourself at them, or the 3 point of damage if you run the red, hit, you mark them for no reason. So really, it's just effectively coming in with a pseudo arcane damage in a way. But I think there are ways to benefit from better things. Obviously, without the access to a lot of the rare reactions, such as Spike with Blood Rot and things like that, you're only really able to do so much with these hands. But I do think the deck piloted itself pretty well. There are turns in which Orb Weaver came in clutch, with me being able to send 2 into 4, right, to present 6 damage off of 1 card on a turn in which I was on the back foot. I felt like that was pretty good. And then, of course, if we're ever threatening anything like a Blood Rot Pox, if we're threatening additional damage on a dagger, right, because instead of it just being a pump on an attack, it could also be a pump on a dagger. And that's where we want to have that change and that ability to pivot, because if we're attacking with a dagger, especially towards the end of the game, a lot of people will just say, oh, I'm at 2, I'll just take 1, it's fine. But in this situation, you have the threat of marking your opponent, and also notably having cards like Incision in the deck are really good. Scar Tissue blocking 2, again, this might be something I can change out for another card, especially with yellow Scar Tissue. Red Scar Tissue can stay, because that makes it come in for 4. Significantly easier to block, or harder to block, I should say. But I don't know that yellow Scar Tissue is exactly necessary, and so it might make the cut. It might even make a cut for a Fate Foreseen, right? To have a more defensive style deck while trying to do a lot more of these daggers, or, wait for your opponent to flip, or wait for yourself to flip into a demi hero. But of course, you're removing a assassin card for a generic card, which changes the game a little bit. But anywho, if you have any questions on the deck itself, obviously, please feel free to go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. I'd be more than happy to hear from you. I think it's a great deck if you enjoy Assassin in the commoner scene. It's a great way to get yourself set up in there. It's very fun and exciting. And honestly, if you find a deck to bling out and you want to bling out a deck in commoner, this is a very blingable deck because all of these tokens have a Marvel version of themselves as well as Arakni Web of Deceit. So you have quite a lot of really good things to put into your commoner deck if you wanted to make it a little bit shiny. But anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoyed this episode in the series. And of course, as always, continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in our next installment of A to Z, the Commoner series.